Not every war is fought with fists. Not every victory needs applause. Sometimes, the most powerful revenge is choosing to heal when they expected you to break. Thomas never raised his voice. He never begged, never cursed. He just listened. And in that silence he found clarity. He learned that being a burden isn't about age. It's about being around people who no longer see your worth. He gave, he forgave, until one day he remembered forgiveness is not permission, and love without respect is not love at all. This was never just about inheritance or power of attorney or who signed what. It was about dignity. The dignity of a man who built a life, raised a daughter, buried a wife, and nearly buried himself under the weight of undeserved guilt. But he rose. He rose not to destroy her, but to remind her that you don't get to betray someone and still call it love. There's a kind of silence that echoes louder than shouting. And Thomas chose that silence not because he had no more to say, but because everything that mattered had already been heard by those who cared and those who would remember. You can lose everything, money, home, family, but if you keep your self-respect, you've already won. Maybe you've been there too, sitting at a table where your presence felt inconvenient, living in a house that no longer felt like home, hearing whispers, not words, and realizing they stopped seeing you long before they stopped speaking to you. If this story reminded you of something buried or someone forgotten, maybe it's time to remember one thing. You are not a burden. Not because you give, not because you stay silent, but because your existence has weight, and that weight deserves to be carried with love, not resentment. If you've ever had to choose between being kind and being used, this story was for you. If you've ever loved someone who forgot how to love you back, this story was for you. If you've ever walked away not in anger but in clarity, this story was definitely for you. Now it's your turn. Tell us. Have you ever been betrayed by someone who once said, "I love you"? Have you ever taken your silence and made it your power? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your voice might be the one someone else needs to hear tonight. And if this story resonated, give it a like, subscribe, and stay with us for more revenge stories where dignity speaks louder than vengeance, and the quietest hearts often leave the deepest echoes. Not every ending is justice. But sometimes, walking away is the most powerful sentence you'll ever deliver. Austin, Texas, a city that never really felt lonely, until the laughter stopped echoing in my house. My name's Richard Evans, 55, widower. I lost my wife Elaine to breast cancer 12 years ago. Since then, it's just been me and Ashley. We adopted her when she was 9. She was quiet, shy, but smart as a whip. Elaine loved her like her own. So did I. Still do. After Elaine passed, I threw myself into raising Ashley. Soccer games, school science fairs, late-night study sessions over pizza. I wasn't perfect, but I was present. I worked 2 jobs, some years taught at a local college during the day, did security shifts at night. Why? So Ashley never had to worry about tuition, books, clothes. When she got into NYU, I cried. Not because of the money, because I knew. Elaine would have been proud. Ashley called me her rock. Every birthday she wrote cards with lines like, "I wouldn't be here without you, Dad." And I believed her. When she married Jason, I helped them with the down payment. When Jason's dad got sick, I paid part of the hospital bill. When they had their first child, I gave them my SUV. I gave because that's what fathers do, right? You give and hope they grow into people who remember where they came from. But somewhere along the way, Ashley forgot. Ashley was always bright, talented, a little intense. She got straight A's, joined the debate team, and knew how to charm a room even as a teenager. People used to say, "She's going places," and I believed that. She was my pride. I wore her like a medal. But as she got older, something shifted. It wasn't dramatic. It was subtle. Easy to miss unless you were paying close attention. Calls became shorter. Visits less frequent. Birthdays turned into text messages. Still, I didn't take it personally. Kids grow up. They get busy. That's life. When she met Jason, I was happy for her. He seemed polite, maybe a little smug, but I figured if Ashley loved him, he must be all right. They married in a vineyard just outside Houston. I paid for most of it. Even gave them a surprise honeymoon package to Maui. I remember the way Ashley hugged me that day. Tight, grateful. Or at least, it felt that way. But after the wedding, things cooled. Phone calls became money requests. Family dinners turned into last-minute cancellations. And slowly, I stopped being dad. I became the guy who pays. Still, I told myself it was just a phase. Marriage is hard. Kids are exhausting. Finances tighten. I gave them grace, because that's what you do when you love someone more than your pride. But deep down, a small voice whispered something I didn't want to hear. She doesn't see you the way she used to, and I ignored it, because the truth was too painful to face. Jason Miller, my son-in-law, MBA from Duke, tech job in Dallas, always dressed sharp, always had something clever to say. The kind of man who measured worth in stock options and wine labels. He wasn't rude to me, not directly, but he had that smile, the one that said, "You've done well for someone like you." At first I tried to connect. We talked baseball, books, the occasional home repair, but every time I shared something he'd nod, pause, and say something like, "Interesting, that's practical," which is code for unimpressive. Still, I showed up. I offered help when their baby was born, drove them to doctor's appointments, paid for diapers when their budget was tight. They didn't say no, but they didn't say thank you either. Then came his parents, Paul and Diane. Retired early, lived in Scottsdale, golfed twice a week. Thought a successful life meant never buying generic anything. The first time they visited for dinner, Diane looked at my house and said, "It's cozy." She smiled when she said it, but it stung. Paul asked what I did for a living. When I told him I used to teach a community college, he raised an eyebrow and sipped his wine. That kind of sip that says, "Ah, you're working class." They were the kind of people who loved the idea of family, as long as it didn't smell like struggle. And I was struggle in a flannel shirt. Still, I smiled, because I thought Ashley loved me enough to see past all that. But as time passed, I realized something chilling. She didn't just see through me, she looked past me. This year I wanted Christmas to feel like magic again. Ashley had been distant. Jason colder than usual. Calls turned into sorry, can't talk, busy. Visits once every few months. So I thought maybe if I brought the family together in one beautiful place, things could feel whole again. I used my entire Christmas bonus, $10,000. Booked a luxury cabin in Aspen. Snow fireplace, private chef. Even sledding for the grandkids. I didn't tell them at first. Wanted it to be a surprise. Printed out little envelopes. Each one said, "Merry Christmas. Pack warm. We leave December 24th. Love, Dad." I imagined their smiles. Ashley's hug, the sparkle in her eyes like when she was 12. I mailed the invites early, then followed up with a call. Jason answered. "Wow," he said, "that's generous. Not warm, not excited, just generous." Ashley called back later, briefly, said she'd check with everyone. Asked if I'd mind letting Paul and Diane come too. Of course not. The more the merrier. I added 2 more tickets. Upgraded the van rental to fit everyone. I even ordered matching sweaters. Corny, sure. But I thought maybe it'd give us something to laugh about by the fire. I pictured Coco, board games, a real Christmas, the kind Elaine always wanted. For once, I thought, maybe we'd feel like a family again. But behind every gift I wrapped, behind every detail I planned, there was something I didn't see coming. Something cold. Much colder than aspen snow. Christmas morning. I woke up early. Real early. 5:47 a.m. The kind of early only a father wakes up with when he's excited. Nervous, hopeful. I made cinnamon rolls. The kind Ashley loved as a kid. I even sprinkled the sugar in a smiley face. The gifts were ready. Sweaters folded, van packed. I waited, sipped coffee, listened for the sound of tires on the driveway. Nothing. 700. Still nothing. I texted, "All set here, can't wait to see everyone." No reply. At 8:12, I walked to the front door. Maybe they were just pulling up, but the driveway was empty. I walked back inside, and that's when I saw it. A note, folded, placed neatly on the kitchen counter next to my favorite mug. "Dad, we didn't want to wake you. We decided to head out early and give you some peace this year. Don't worry, everything's taken care of. Love, Ashley." I read it once, twice, 10 times. My eyes stopped on those words. Give you some peace. No hugs, no goodbye, no Christmas. Just a silent departure from the people I built my life around. I opened the fridge. Empty, no food prepped, no leftovers. They'd been planning this. This wasn't last minute. This was clean, deliberate. I stood there, alone. Coffee turning cold. Sugar smile melting on the tray. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like a father. I felt like a burden. I picked up my phone. Called Ashley first, straight to voicemail. I tried again. Nothing. Left a message. "Hey, it's Dad. I just saw your note. Are you sure everything's okay?" No response. Called Jason. It rang once, then voicemail. I stared at the screen. Tried to believe they'd just lost service. That maybe they'd call me back any second now. They didn't. So I called Paul, Jason's father. His phone rang 4 times, then stopped. Called Diane. Her number was disconnected. Disconnected. I stood there, gripping the phone tighter. My breath shallow. This couldn't be real. They wouldn't just leave. Not on Christmas. Not after everything. But then the silence in my house said otherwise. The Christmas tree lights blinked cheerfully, but the room felt like a tomb. I turned on the TV muted, hoping the noise would make the emptiness less loud. It didn't. I sat on the couch, still holding my phone. And then just once I laughed, not because anything was funny, but because it hit me. I'd been ghosted by my own family on the day I loved most, after I gave them everything. And the worst part, they didn't even lie well. "No, we're sick. No, the baby's crying." Just a casual goodbye like I was a neighbor they no longer needed. I kept calling. Voicemail, voicemail, voicemail. And then, silence. I wandered the house. Didn't know what I was looking for. Maybe proof that this was just a misunderstanding. A sign that this wasn't intentional. Then I saw it on the guest room bed. Ashley's iPad. Left behind, unlocked. She must have forgotten it while packing in the dark. I stared at it. Hesitated. Then picked it up. My fingers hovered. I wasn't trying to snoop. I was trying to understand. Her home screen was filled with photos Jason holding the baby family dinners I wasn't invited to a beach trip that I never heard about. My chest tightened. Then I noticed a notification from a group chat titled Xmas Escape Plan. My hands shook. I opened it. And there it was. Message after message from Ashley, Jason, Paul, Diane. Jokes, planning, mockery. Ashley, he won't even notice. He still thinks Christmas means something. Jason, Let him sip cocoa by himself. He's good at lonely. Paul, I hope he doesn't find out we used the bonus for the Vegas trip. Vegas? They weren't in Aspen. They never planned to be. Diane, just smile and take the check. That's what parents are for. My heart broke, then froze. This wasn't distance. This wasn't busyness. This was betrayal, polished, packaged, planned. They didn't forget me. They excluded me. I kept scrolling, even though every message felt like a blade. Ashley, Dad's bonus covered the whole cabin. Too bad we're not going. He still thinks we care about cinnamon rolls and matching sweaters. They laughed. Jason sent a meme, an old man sitting alone under a Christmas tree. Captioned, "Live shot of Richard tomorrow." Paul replied, "He'll be fine. Maybe he'll finally watch that How Not to Be a Burden documentary." Diane added a heart emoji. My hands were trembling, but not from sadness, from something deeper, hotter. Anger, not the loud kind, the quiet kind, the kind that burns behind the eyes. I'd forgiven so much, excused so much, explained away the distance, the indifference, the silence. But this was cruelty, mockery, planned behind closed doors, typed with thumbs I once taught to write, smiled through faces I once fed. Ashley wrote again, "He'll probably cry, but maybe that'll teach him not to be so clingy. I raised this girl, gave her everything. Sat in hospital waiting rooms, paid rent when she lost her job, sold my car so she could finish grad school. And now, I was a punchline, an inconvenience, disposable." I set the iPad down. Carefully, like it was something infected, walked into the kitchen, turned off the Christmas lights. The house went dim, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't sad, I was ready. I went to the bathroom, closed the door, sat on the edge of the tub, and cried. Not the kind of cry that makes noise, the kind where your body just shakes, like grief is trying to crawl its way out of your chest. I stared at my reflection in the mirror, wrinkles deeper than last year, eyes dull, back slightly curved. I looked like someone who'd spent his whole life giving, and in return got silence, mockery, abandonment. A million moments played in my head. Birthday parties, emergency room visits, parent-teacher meetings, nights I skipped meals so she could eat. I raised her. I gave her the best parts of me. And now, I was nothing more than a sad joke in her group chat. I wiped my face, stood up, looked at myself again, and whispered, "Enough." That word echoed. Enough. Enough of the excuses. Enough of being the nice guy. Enough of being treated like furniture in my own story. I walked back to the kitchen, turned on the light. There was one thing Ashley never knew. I didn't just send money, I tracked it. Every gift, every transfer, every favor had a paper trail. Receipts, emails, bank wires. Not because I didn't trust her, but because I trusted too much. And now, that trust was gone. In its place, clarity. They thought they played me, but they forgot one thing. I'm not just a man who gives, I'm a man who remembers. I pulled out the old black folder, the one Ashley used to tease me about. "Dad, you're the only guy who prints receipts in 2023. Yeah, and now I'm the only one who can prove everything. 10 years of bank transfers, mortgage payments I made for their house, Ashley's tuition checks, Jason's emergency dental surgery, the $8,000 SUV gift still in my name, the $10,000 bonus. Yep, wire transfer tagged and dated, but that was just the start. I logged into my email, pulled up the contract from the cabin in Aspen. I didn't just book the trip under my name, I paid the full reservation using my card. No refund doesn't matter, because Jason signed the RSVP confirmation. and so did Paul. They agreed to the terms. They agreed to show up. And guess what no-show fees apply? I called the property manager, told him what happened. He was shocked. Said, "Sir, that's fraud. You could press charges." I smiled for the first time that day. But I wasn't done. I forwarded everything documents, payment logs, screenshots of the group chat to my attorney, a calm man named Elliot Clark, who happens to specialize in financial abuse and elder fraud. I didn't need revenge out of rage. I needed consequences out of principle. Ashley wanted to use me like an ATM. Well, banks have rules. And this account just got closed. Monday morning, 8:00 a.m. sharp. Elliot Clark, my lawyer, sent out the letters. Not emails, not texts, real printed certified letters. One for Ashley, one for Jason, and one for Paul and Diane. Inside, a polite, professional message. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Miller, due to recent documented financial transactions and communications, Mr. Richard Hale has retained legal counsel. You are hereby notified that all future requests for financial assistance are denied. Furthermore, misuse of funds gifted in trust may be subject to legal review under federal and state law. Then it got better. A separate letter to Jason, Mr. Miller. As you signed an agreement for the Aspen property and failed to appear or notify of cancellation, you are liable for breach of contract. Charges totaling $3,150 will be invoiced shortly, and to Paul and Diane, we advise ceasing all contact intended to solicit financial gain from Mr. Hale. Continued attempts may result in a cease and desist order. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't dramatic, but it was final, concrete, undeniable. I imagined Ashley opening that envelope, expecting maybe a holiday card, and finding instead boundaries. For the first time, she was looking at me through new eyes, not as a bank, not as background noise, but as someone who'd had enough. And just like that, the power shifted. Not with shouting, not with threats, but with a single printed truth. You don't get to break a man who built you and expect silence. The fallout didn't come with fireworks. It came with silence, and then with panic. Ashley called first. 4 missed calls. Then a voicemail, her voice cracking. "Dad, I got your letter. What is this? Can we just talk?" I didn't answer. Jason sent an email. Subject line about Aspen miscommunication. He called it a miscommunication. Paul texted, "Rich, let's not get lawyers involved. We're family after all." Family, funny word, for people who abandoned you on Christmas. Then came the real panic. Jason's company found out he used my bonus as proof of liquidity for a startup investment he never made. Turns out he listed the $10,000 as a gifted asset, under penalty of perjury. My lawyer sent their compliance team a notice. Jason was put on leave, pending internal investigation. Paul. Turns out his Arizona golf buddies didn't like the word fraud floating around. Diane's book club stopped calling. Ashley. Her friends saw the screenshots, the memes, the cruel jokes. One of them forwarded the messages to a parenting blog. It went viral. Comments poured in. She did this to her own father. He paid for everything and they ghosted him. This man deserves better. And suddenly they weren't just facing me anymore. They were facing the world. I didn't lift a finger. I didn't raise my voice. All I did was tell the truth. And the truth, it echoed louder than any revenge. 3 days after the letters, she showed up. No call, no warning, just a knock on my front door. I opened it. There she was. Ashley, my daughter. The same girl I once taught to ride a bike. Now standing there, eyes red, voice, trembling car keys in one hand, entitlement in the other. "Dad, can we talk?" I stepped aside. She walked in like she still owned the air, but the house felt colder now. Smaller, stricter. She sat down at the kitchen table right where the note used to be. "I didn't know they were going to Vegas," she said. "I just needed a break, okay?" I said nothing. "You're making this into a huge deal," she added. "It was Christmas. People do dumb things." I finally spoke. "People forget a gift. They don't forget a father." She flinched, then switched tactics. "You've always been dramatic. You like playing the victim." I tilted my head. Victim. Was I dramatic? When I paid her hospital bills. When I canceled my vacation to stay home with her sick son. When I sold my wedding ring to cover her rent. I leaned in. "Ashley, I'm not the victim. I'm the lesson." Her face dropped. No more fake tears, no more excuses, just silence. And for once, she listened. Ashley looked at me, eyes wide, like a child caught in a lie but too old to admit it. "So, what now?" she whispered. "You just cut me off after everything." I took a breath. Let the quiet settle between us. "No, Ashley, I didn't cut you off. You walked away. I just locked the door behind you." She blinked. "I'm still your daughter," she said. "That doesn't change." I nodded. "And I'll always be the man who raised you. But love isn't a lifetime warranty." She stood up, hurt and humiliated. But I stayed seated, calm, grounded, unapologetic. "Dad, please don't do this." I leaned forward. "I'm not doing anything. I'm just finally done." She opened her mouth and closed it. There were no more cards to play, no more guilt to throw, no more fake apologies, just the weight of her own choices, and a door that would never open the same way again. She walked to the front door, paused. "Will you ever forgive me?" I looked at her one last time. "That depends. Will you ever forgive yourself?" And with that, she left. No more chaos, no more questions, just peace. For the first time, in a long, long time, that night I sat by the fireplace. No music, no noise, just the soft crackle of wood, and something new. Peace. I didn't cry, didn't replay her words, didn't wonder if I'd been too harsh. I just sat and finally felt the weight slide off. The next morning, I booked a trip. Not Aspen, not Vegas. Savannah, Georgia. A place I'd always dreamed of visiting, but never did because I was always too busy being needed. I stayed in a cozy inn near Forsyth Park. Walked under moss-covered oaks. Read books by the river. Smiled at strangers. No phone calls, no guilt, no expectations. Just me. A man rediscovering himself, not as a father, not as a provider, but as Richard, the man who loves jazz, the man who writes poetry in diner napkins, the man who still believes in kindness but finally knows it needs boundaries. On my third night, I had dinner with an old friend, Claire, widowed, wise, warm. We laughed, talked about life, love, regrets, and second chances. She didn't ask what happened. She just listened. And in that moment, I realized revenge isn't always fire. Sometimes it's silence. Sometimes it's peace. Sometimes it's choosing joy when they expected your ruin. They took my Christmas bonus, but I took back my life. Revenge stories. Not all revenge burns. Some glows. Some feels like sitting in a quiet room hearing only your own breath and realizing you survived them. I learned something through this mess, that love, real love, should never require silence or sacrifice without return, or being the punchline of people you once saved. Kindness is only powerful when it's given to those who know what it's worth. And forgiveness, it's not about forgetting what they did. It's about choosing who deserves space in your peace. For years, I believed being a good father meant saying yes, covering bills, fixing everything they broke. But sometimes the most loving word you can offer someone is no. No more money, no more guilt, no more chances they haven't earned. What Ashley didn't realize was that her biggest inheritance was never money. It was me. My time, my energy, my presence. And now that I've taken that back, I'm rich in a way I never knew before. Free, quiet, whole. Sometimes revenge isn't loud. Sometimes it whispers. You don't get to decide my worth because I already did. Maybe you've been Richard. Maybe you gave everything your money, your time, your heart to people who thought it was endless. Maybe you've been silent too long, smiling while they took pieces of you thinking, one day they'll see my worth. Or maybe you're standing at the edge of a decision now, to speak up, to set a boundary, to say enough. Let me tell you this, you're not weak for loving deeply. You're not wrong for giving. But you are allowed to stop when giving becomes a slow form of disappearing. You deserve to be more than someone's backup plan wallet or emotional punching bag. You deserve to be seen, heard, respected. And if no one gives that to you, then give it to yourself. Because sometimes the most powerful revenge is not burning bridges, but building a better life on the other side. Thank you for listening to this story. If it made you feel something, anger, hope, clarity, leave a comment. Tell us, what would you have done if you were Richard? And if you've ever walked away from someone who didn't see your worth, welcome, you're not alone. This wasn't just a revenge story. It was a lesson, and maybe a beginning. See you in the next one. Revenge Stories.